it is undoubtedly the most bizarre WikiLeaks revelation to date. The Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, was invited to a spirit cooking dinner by performance artist Marina Abramovic. Now, this is an occult ritual, and she says herself that if you perform it in an art studio, well, then it's art. But if you perform it privately at a, let's say, at a dinner party, then it actually is an occult ritual. And this was founded by Satanist Aleister Crowley. These elites, they really are involved in these weird occult, sex, satanic rituals. But here it is, right here in black and white. So this is the WikiLeaks email. It's sent from Marina to Tony Podesta, who is John Podesta's brother. Dear Tony, I'm so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you'll be able to let me know if your brother is joining? So then Tony forwards it to his brother and says, hey, are you in New York City on Thursday? Marina wants you to come to dinner. And Mary, which is John Podesta's wife. So hey, bring the wife too to get involved in this. So spirit cooking refers to a sacrament in the religion of Thelema, which was founded by Aleister Crowley. It involves an occult performance during which menstrual blood, breast milk, urine, and sperm are used to create a painting. Now, like I said, according to this performance artist, Marina, if you perform it in an art gallery, like she's doing in the video that you can see now, it's merely art. But performed privately, it represents an intimate spiritual ceremony. Mike Cernovich was all over this last night as well, talking about spirit cooking being an occult practice used during sex cult rituals. It's explained in the book Spirit Cooking with Essential Aphrodisiac Recipes. This is a book that Marina Abramovic wrote with all of these occult recipes, telling people how they can take the essence out of these rituals. And, you know, does this look like a nearly 70-year-old woman to you? This woman is about 70 years old, and she looks damn good for her age. Just last year, out of The Guardian, they were talking about reversing the aging process by putting young blood into older people. Okay, so this is real. This is something that's really going on here. And we had Steve Pieczenik on the show earlier this week. For the first time in 25 years, he went on camera, on the record, to say it's actually the FBI. They are staging an internal coup against Hillary Clinton and her top cronies. They do not want this woman in. And, you know, he's a State Department psychological warfare expert. And in his first video, he talked about this internal coup that was going on with the FBI, that they were the ones who were revealing these emails to WikiLeaks. But then in another video, Pieczenik talks about the fact that the reason why it was so bizarre at the time, I couldn't even believe it, that there was some child sex parties, something like that, that was what was truly concerning to the FBI. A lot of people on social media are looking through these Podesta emails and saying that they're actually containing code for child sex trafficking, hidden in some of these mentions, hiding behind types of food, noting that this could be code word. And if you look at these emails, it's very bizarre.
More people coming forward tonight reporting suspicious Halloween candy in Neenah. It comes after a Neenah mom posted this picture on Facebook of a nail in her daughter's Tootsie Roll. NBC 26's Stacey Ingebretson has more on this investigation. Stacey?
Neenah police say they've received 3 more tainted candy complaints since Katie Van Dyke first reported a nail in her daughter Gracie's Tootsie Roll on Tuesday. This photo of the nail in her bleeding thumb has been shared on social media nearly 5,000 times. In the new cases police are investigating, one person threw away their questionable candy, but 2 others handed over their suspicious treats to officers to inspect.
There appeared to be some possible tampering, maybe a foreign substance placed into a piece of candy. So we sort of left those alone. We didn't want to tamper and put our own DNA into that.
Police sent the candy to the state crime lab for analysis. The chief says it could take months before they get test results back. Now, tonight, he's reminding parents to be extra vigilant with checking your child's candy. If something seems strange, you can drop it off at the police department or check with your family dentist to see if they'll x-ray it for you.
Come November 14th, we're all getting a super duper moon, the closest full moon we've seen since 1948. You've probably heard of a supermoon before. It occurs when the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its elliptical orbit, or its perigee. And according to NASA, they can appear as much as 14% bigger and 30% brighter than an apogee moon, or one that's at its furthest point from Earth. But November 14th is bringing us an extra special, extra big, and extra bright supermoon. That's because it's supposed to be a completely full supermoon and will be the closest moon to Earth since 1948. And trust me, folks, this is one cosmic show you will not want to miss. We won't get to see a moon like this again until 2034.
Preppers are running up sales of emergency survival food in case of an election night doomsday. Keith Bansimer, VP of Marketing for My Patriot Supply, a manufacturer and seller of survival food, said while sales for long-term food typically see an increase around natural disasters and elections, this is more intense than what we saw in 2012. During the previous election, his company saw sales double. For this election, it's triple. He said, "We have everyone we can on the phones. We are overwhelmed." Purchases at other long-term food supply companies are up as well. In year-over-year sales, emergency preparedness online store The Epicenter reports a 6% uptick.
Just days away from the presidential election, and counterterrorism officials on high alert amid a new threat from al-Qaeda of a pre-election attack.
Officials say the intelligence points to a possible attack in New York, Texas, or Virginia. It is vague, but they are taking the threat seriously. They're ramping up security. CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer live now in Central Park. Marcia.
Well, Maurice, the specific threat is for an attack on Monday, the day before the election. But with so many events going on here in New York City, including the marathon, counterterrorism forces are expected to be on high alert for days.
Besides overall vigilance, is we're just going to unite Sunday, Monday, Tuesday into a constant pattern of increased NYPD presence.
Mayor de Blasio talking about plans to have NYPD counterterrorism units, cops with long guns, bomb detecting equipment, radiation detecting equipment, what the NYPD calls the full counterterrorism overlay, on the streets and ready for action. Not only to deal with threats of a terror attack, but to guard the thousands here for the marathon and to protect Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, who'll be in New York City on election night.
You will see a lot of uniformed personnel out.
Federal, state, and city law enforcement officials taking no chances as they try to nail down intelligence from al-Qaeda of a threat to attack the homeland in either New York, Texas, or Virginia on the day before the presidential election.
Hundreds of clergy of various faiths have joined protests against the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline in southern North Dakota. They sung hymns, marched, and ceremonially burned a copy of a 600-year-old document on November 3rd. The interfaith event was organized to push elected officials to stop construction of the $3.8 billion pipeline. The pipeline is supposed to carry North Dakota oil through South Dakota and Iowa to a shipping point in Illinois. The event was also organized to draw attention to the concerns of the Standing Rock Sioux. The Native American tribe believes the pipelines threaten its drinking water and cultural sites.
A new wave of super meth hitting San Diego, 90% pure and making users crazy. 10 News reporter Maurice Steffen rode along with the meth strike force to see how this drug poses a danger to people who will never use it.
We have Tom 48 with Transport Team.
Yeah, it's called Tip the Scales.
Tip the Scales. Officers from around the county sweep areas known for drug-related crime. El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells says they need it more than ever because of the growing grip of meth.
Drug cartels from Mexico decided that they would get involved in that business. They started building large manufacturing super labs.
Super labs, making meth 90% pure but 2/3 the price. Stronger, cheaper, more destructive.
People are dying.
Last year, half of all adults arrested for any charge tested positive for meth, an all-time high.
In a new CBS News report, it's been revealed by the Department of Homeless Services that in New York City, the number of homeless people living there has reached an all-time high. The revelation has led many to deduce that the city's current plan to combat homelessness is failing. New York City Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito said of the news, "It's definitely something that we cannot stand for as a city."
An often drug-resistant fungal infection has made it to the United States, and it can be deadly. The fungus, a yeast called Candida auris, is believed to have infected 13 people so far in the U.S., according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It's the first time the fungus has been seen in the States. The first 7 cases of Candida auris infection in the U.S. happened between the spring of 2013 and summer 2016. 4 of those patients died, but because they were all already very sick, it's unclear if the fungus killed them. Although most cases of the infection are resistant to multiple drugs, the U.S. cases have all had at least one antifungal drug that worked, at least for now. But officials have long been worried about the increasing rate of antibiotic resistance and science's ability to keep up. CDC Director Tom Frieden said, "We need to act now to better understand, contain, and stop the spread of this drug-resistant fungus. This is an emerging threat, and we need to protect vulnerable patients and others."
At least 2 American soldiers have been killed and 2 others wounded in Afghanistan. The U.S. military says the soldiers died near the northern city of Kunduz. They were assisting Afghan security forces in operations against the Taliban. The militant group briefly captured the city a month ago before Afghan forces pushed them out.
Now, U.S. airstrikes left over 30 civilians dead and dozens of others injured in Afghanistan's Kunduz province. Now, the casualties include women and children. Police say that some of the victims have been as young as 3 months old and around that age. U.S. military said airstrikes are called in to protect friendly forces under fire. It added that all civilian casualty claims will be investigated. Angry protesters were quick to take to the streets following the attack, which took place early Thursday. Demonstrators condemned the U.S. for killing, quote, innocent civilians.
Seven people were killed from one family. My brother-in-law and all of his family were killed in this attack. See their bodies here? All members of one family.
These bodies you see here are either children or women. They are not Taliban. All innocent children and women killed here. Look at the bodies.
And protesters gathered outside the governor's office there in Kunduz. Some demonstrators are carrying the bodies of victims with them. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said that he's deeply sad over the killings. Ghani also urged the military to do everything possible to prevent civilian casualties. Airstrikes occurred after a firefight with militants killed 2 U.S. soldiers and 3 Afghan Special Forces officers during an anti-Taliban operation there near Kunduz. The Pentagon says American soldiers were helping Afghan troops capture a Taliban position. Militants have intensified their attacks throughout Afghanistan, including in Kunduz province, over the past months.
Thousands of migrants are sent packing in Paris just a week after the closure of the jungle camp in Calais. French police cleared nearly 4,000 people from a makeshift camp outside the Stalingrad metro station on November 4th. The process reportedly remained peaceful. A spokesperson for the Paris prefect of police told CNN that 3,852 people had been relocated. Officials said those considered vulnerable would be taken to shelters in the Paris metro area, while single men would be relocated elsewhere around the country. All will be given the chance to apply for asylum. Most of those at the camp hailed from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Attempts to clear the camp over the past 18 months have always failed. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo told The Guardian, quote, "We cannot have camps of this nature in the city. We cannot have people living in such dirty, undignified circumstances."
This is Khazir refugee camp. So many have come here since the push on Mosul intensified that the camp's population doubled. Security is tight. Camp authorities say anyone could potentially be a Daesh member infiltrating the camp. Food supplies are even tighter, and charity workers are overwhelmed.
There's been a massive displacement of people. The residents of Mosul's eastern areas have almost entirely come here. It's a lot of pressure on us. We've been working 24 hours a day.
Some waited for hours to get basic goods. Exhausted and frustrated, many returned empty-handed.
These men have all come to the camp on Thursday from Khojaly with their families, and they're saying that none of them have received a tent. They're sleeping outside, and some of them haven't actually received any food yet.
One of them, Mahmoud, took us to his new home. His family came from Khojaly with the little that they were able to salvage.
We don't want anything. We just want to have some peace of mind. We came from a prison, and this here is another prison. How can I sleep? Last night I couldn't sleep because my family had no shelter. We are 5 in my family, and they only gave us 3 mattresses.
Camp authorities say they're expecting thousands more. And as the push for Mosul intensifies, more and more Iraqis face the prospect of becoming refugees in their own country.
Prosecutors are ramping up their investigations into 2 former presidential aides with alleged links to the scandal. Former senior presidential secretary for policy coordination An Jung-bom is believed to have meddled in the fundraising activities of 2 controversial non-profit organizations created by Choi Soon-sil, a longtime friend of President Park and the woman at the heart of the scandal. Former presidential personal secretary Jong Ho-song is alleged to have leaked confidential presidential documents that included diplomatic and security issues to Che. Prosecutors are still deciding whether to request arrest warrants for the 2 men. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Koreans have joined a candlelit rally in Seoul for the 2nd Saturday in a row to demand President Park step down. Rallies are also taking place in other cities around the country.
The independent report into the response of the UN forces in South Sudan, known as UNMISS, concluded that there were multiple failures of leadership when they failed to respond to requests for protection during an outbreak of violence in July. Many civilians seeking immediate help, along with international aid workers, were subject to violence, death, rape and torture. The report says UN forces, despite being close to the scene of such abuses, failed to respond to cries for help, even though their mandate is to use all necessary means to protect civilians. In response, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has dismissed the Kenyan head of that force, Lieutenant General Ondieki. Kenya says he's being used as a scapegoat for the systemic failures of the UN peacekeeping system. President Uhuru Kenyatta says he will now withdraw over 1,000 troops from the mission.
Since September, student demonstrations have brought chaos to university campuses across South Africa. At that time, the government announced universities could determine their own tuition increases for 2017, as much as 8%. Last year, South African President Jacob Zuma responded to the backlash of student protests by putting a stop to tuition hikes. But this time, student groups remain at an impasse with the government for a solution. A group of South African students frustrated over higher tuition fees clashed with police outside Parliament in Cape Town.
Around 1,800 primary schools in the Indian capital New Delhi have been closed as the city faced its most severe bout of air pollution in recent years. Official data show that breathing the air in the city on Saturday was the equivalent of smoking 40 cigarettes. The city has been enveloped in thick smog since last week's Diwali festival, which saw hundreds of firecrackers set off. It's also suffered from crop fires in agricultural areas in neighboring states of Haryana and Punjab. Experts say other factors, including weather patterns, inward wind, and low dispersion of pollutants, have also contributed to the problem.
Two independent teams of researchers said the Ebola virus mutated during the 2013 through 2016 West African epidemic. The result, they say, is that the virus is now even more infectious. Scientists say that in the past, Ebola has mainly been found in animals and only recently crossed over to people. Now that the virus has a new host, humans, it naturally has adapted to better infect and spread to that host. Both teams are currently researching the virus to learn as much as possible about how to best prepare for future outbreaks.
It is undoubtedly the most bizarre WikiLeaks revelation to date. The Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, was invited to a spirit cooking dinner by performance artist Marina Abramovic. Now, this is an occult ritual, and she says herself that if you perform it in an art studio, well, then it's art. But if you perform it privately at a, let's say, at a dinner party, then it actually is an occult ritual. And this was founded by, which was founded by Aleister Crowley. It involves an occult performance during which menstrual blood, breast milk, urine, and sperm are used to create a painting. Now, like I said, according to this performance artist, Marina, if you perform it in an art gallery, like she's doing in the video that you can see now, it's merely art. But performed privately, it represents an intimate spiritual ceremony. Mike Cernovich was all over this last night as well, talking about spirit cooking being an occult practice used during sex cult rituals. It's explained in the book Spirit Cooking with Essential Aphrodisiac Recipes. This is a book that Marina Abramovic wrote with all of these occult recipes, telling people how they can take the essence out of these rituals. And, you know, does this look like a nearly 70-year-old woman to you? This woman is about 70 years old, and she looks damn good for her age. Just last year, out of The Guardian, they were talking about reversing the aging process by putting young blood into older people. Okay, so this is real. This is something that's really going on here. And we had Steve Pieczenik on the show earlier this week. For the first time in 25 years, he went on camera, on the record, to say it's actually the FBI. They are staging an internal coup against Hillary Clinton and her top cronies. They do not want this woman in. And, you know, he's a State Department psychological warfare expert. And in his first video, he talked about this internal coup that was going on with the FBI, that they were the ones who were revealing these emails to WikiLeaks. But then in another video, Pieczenik talks about the fact that the reason why it was so bizarre at the time, I couldn't even believe it, that there was some child sex parties, something like that, that was what was truly concerning to the FBI. A lot of Satanist Aleister Crowley. These elites, they really are involved in these weird occult sex satanic rituals. But here it is, right here in black and white. So this is the WikiLeaks email. It's sent from Marina to Tony Podesta, who is John Podesta's brother. Dear Tony, I'm so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you'll be able to let me know if your brother is joining? So then Tony forwards it to his brother and says, hey, are you in New York City on Thursday? Marina wants you to come to dinner. And Mary, ? Which is John Podesta's wife. So hey, bring the wife too to get involved in this. So spirit cooking refers to a sacrament in the religion of Thelamus.